Hi everyone. Welcome to the first lesson in my Pat Academy sports betting series where I will be talking about important tools to utilize in sports betting. The first topic of the video is understanding sports betting odds. What do betting odds mean? American betting odds are expressed in a number that shows either how much you need to risk to win $100, those are represented by a minus sign, or how much you would win risking $100. Those are represented by a plus sign. So for example, if you bet on something at plus 150 odds, that would mean you would win $150 for every $100 that you risked. Betting odds also imply a probability of a wager winning or losing. For example, a plus 100 bet implies a probability of 50%. It is necessary to understand the implied probability of bets to be a winning sports bettor. Some useful tools for this include the Ace Odds odds converter and the Action Network parlay calculator. I will now show you an example of how you can use both. Here I am on the website for the Ace Odds odds converter. The first example I'm going to do is for a plus 300 bet. Can you determine the implied probability of a plus 300 bet quickly in your head? If not, you can type it in here and the odds converter will show you that the implied probability for a plus 300 bet is 25%. This means that for all the plus 300 bets that you make, you would need to win more than 25% of them in order to be profitable in the long term. The next example I'm going to show is for a minus 200 bet. The implied probability here is 66.7%. This means that for all the minus 200 bets that you place, you would need to win more than 66.7% of them to be profitable in the long term. Another way to think about this is when placing bets is to consider what you would believe are the probability of bets winning or losing. Compare these probabilities to the implied probabilities of the betting odds. You want to look for bets where the probability of winning is greater than the implied probability of the betting odds. This is the only way to be a profitable sports bettor in the long term. So with this example here on the screen of minus 200 betting odds and the implied probability of 66.7%, for any bets that you place at these exact odds, you would want to have greater than a 66.7% chance of winning the bet. Moving on, here is the Action Network parlay calculator. This could be useful for checking odds for parlays quickly without having to build them out on sportsbooks if you knew the odds of each leg. This only works for parlays that are not correlated, meaning this would not work for same game parlays. Do you know what the odds of 3 plus 100 legs together in a parlay would be off the top of your head? Typing it in here, you can see that the odds of a 3-leg parlay with plus 100 legs is plus 700. I also use this tool frequently to help calculate the fair value of parlays that I share in the Discord. The next topic that I want to cover is line shopping. Line shopping is defined as the act of looking at the lines across all the sports books available to you in order to see the best odds on a market. Why is this necessary? Well, the goal of any serious sports bettor is to maximize profit. Line shopping is an easy and simple way to help accomplish that goal. I will show you an example in Microsoft Excel of how small differences in betting odds can make a large difference over time. This Excel sheet is showing 3 different scenarios. You can think of each scenario as a different bettor. In each scenario, the bettors have a 50% win rate and alternate win and loss with every bet. As you can see here, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss for all 3 bettors. However, the first bettor is getting plus 120 odds for every bet. The second bettor is getting plus 110 odds, and the third bettor is getting plus 100. This example is using a $100 unit size, so $100 is risked on every bet. You can see at the bottom here that after 10 bets, the first bettor has a profit of $100, the second has a profit of $50, and the third has a profit of $0. They are at break even. You can also see the differences of how this will stack up over time with 50 bets and even 100 bets, how there's such a large difference between the net profit over time, despite just being a small difference in the odds for individual bets placed. It is very important to be price sensitive as a serious sports bettor. If I were to share a play that I got at plus 120 odds, and I said that the fair value was plus 100, the bet would only be worth taking if you could get better than plus 100 odds on it. What tools can be utilized to line shop? There are many solid options when it comes to odds screens. Unfortunately, you will likely have to pay to get access to a good one. My personal preference is OddsJam, but I don't necessarily recommend it. Here's an example of what I look at on OddsJam. I have the sports selected to NBA. I have the market selected to player points, and I have the Philadelphia and Sacramento game that is about to happen in less than an hour. Now you can see here all the players that are listed. I think Kelly Oubre is out for this game, so that's why only Ballybet and Bet Rivers have him listed. That would void if you placed it. But you can see here for all these players that all the sports books, there's MGM, Caesars, DraftKings, ESPN Bet, FanDuel, Fanatics, the main ones I look at, that there are significant differences between the books. I'm trying to see if there's anything notable here that would make for a good example. I think here for De'Aaron Fox, you can see that some books have his line at 24.5, some have it at 25.5, and then this sports book called Risk has it at 26.5. And although the odds are worse, they're not that much worse. I would think the under here at minus 128 would probably be a good value bet. If you liked the under for De'Aaron Fox against Philadelphia, which I do, I would actually bet that, but I don't know what sportsbook this is, so I don't have access to it. But if I saw that on another book, I would definitely take it. Another great tool, which is free, is Gambly.com. Gambly does not show you all the options at once like an odds screen would, but you can use it to compare odds for a certain bet that you would be considering. I'll also show you an example for that. Okay, so here's Gambly.com. It's like a chat GPT for sports betting. So in the Philadelphia-Sacramento game, I like the opportunity for Caleb Martin threes because of the matchup and Philadelphia having a lot of players that are not playing tonight. So I would type in Caleb Martin, 3-pointers made, and then you can see the odds that are available at the different sports books that Gambly is able to scrape here. They don't have them all, but they have a lot of the major ones. And then you could also look at the alternate 3-pointers made. So you can see that if you wanted to take 3 or 4 threes, you'd do it on BetMGM or ESPN Bet for 3, and you definitely would want to do it on ESPN Bet for 4 threes to get the best odds here. I did take this bet earlier in the day and got better odds on it, and this is the exact thing I looked at to figure out where the best odds were. Lastly, another great tool for line shopping is Pickit. While it is mainly known for bet tracking, it is a free-to-use app, and it also gives users the ability to line shop. The next topic I want to discuss here is testing betting strategies. A great way for both new and experienced bettors to test new betting strategies is to track them without risking money on them. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of many tools out there that can be used for this purpose. In my experience, I've used both Microsoft Excel and the OddsJam bet tracker for this purpose, although once again, OddsJam is a paid service. For this example here, I'm actually going to show you my Google Sheets of all the plays that I've put in the Discord. You can see in this sheet, I have a column where I put the date, I put what the bet is, the sport, the sports book, odds, units risked, the result, win-loss, and profit-loss. And then I have my equation set up here so you can see the total profit, the ROI, and then the NHL profit, NHL ROI, NBA profit, NHL ROI. It's been a very rough start to the Discord, hoping to turn that around soon. Moving on, let's talk about some tools that can be used for general research in all sports. Having access to and being able to navigate/contextualize stats is key to being a successful sports bettor. Each sport has different stats and sources of data that would be useful, but there are some broad databases that could be useful to your sports betting. Some useful tools for this include StatHead and StatMuse. Unfortunately, StatHead requires a subscription, but I find it to be a very useful database, not just for sports betting, but as a sports and stats nerd in general. On the other hand, StatMuse is free to use and can be a great tool to query relevant stats for any sports bet. I will show you an example for StatMuse. Okay, so here I have StatMuse pulled up and I searched Caleb Martin last 5 games because I know recently the Sixers have been dealing with a lot of injuries and Martin has played a lot of minutes and has had a couple games where he scored a decent amount of points. So I wanted to look at this before the game tonight to get an idea of how much minutes I could expect him to play and how many shots he would take. So you see, 5 and 4 games ago, he had 29 minutes, 27 minutes, but then the last 3 games, he's played at least 36 minutes. So I could be looking at another 35, 36-minute game log tonight. In these games, he's averaged around 8 shots per game. 4.2 of those are 3-point attempts. So his shot attempts have been very 3-point heavy as of lately, which is why I lean towards taking his threes tonight instead of his points. And you can see he had the one really good game against the Celtics where he made 7 out of 9 threes. He had a game against the Spurs where he was 3 out of 5. Past couple games, he's only attempted 2 threes each against Utah and Portland. However, I think the Kings are a good matchup for him being a spot-up corner wing shooter, and also with Embiid being out, there's going to be more opportunity. Of course, this is just a simple example, and this is not the extent of my full research. You should definitely do more than this when looking for NBA props. I just wanted to give an example of how you could be headed in the right direction. Okay, so I'm adding this part in after recording the full video because the Caleb Martin StatMuse example isn't the best because I was just looking at his previous 5 games with no conditions. I think StatMuse becomes much more useful when you can look up game logs with a condition. So, for example, here, I was looking at, recently, every game, I've been looking at Yabusele points, especially when Andre Drummond is not playing, because then Yabusele will likely play a lot of minutes. So you can look up Yabusele last 10 games without Andre Drummond, and it'll show the game logs where Yabusele played and Drummond did not. And you can see with the Sixers here, there's 7 games where this season Yabusele played and Drummond did not. You can see in those games he's getting almost 30 minutes a game in most games, and all but one he scored at least 10 points. And the game I shared in the Discord against the Warriors, his points line was set at 7.5 at most books. I said to take the 12 plus at plus 325 and ladder up to 18. He started it hot. Unfortunately, he just did not take many shots. He only took 6 shots. If he took 9-10 shots like he has in a lot of these games where he was playing 30 minutes. We probably maxed the full ladder there. Unfortunate that we did not. But yeah, this is what I was looking at before the game to see that this was a good bet. I was seeing that Yabusele was playing a good amount of minutes when Drummond was out and consistently scoring above 10 points when his points line was only 7.5. And you can also see it wasn't like he was shooting hot every time. 4 for 10, 3 for 10, 6 for 8, 4 for 9, 4 for 7, 6 for 9. So shooting pretty well, but it's not like he was getting lucky and making every shot, which made me think that could be a consistent trend. And he did shoot 4 for 6 and 1 for 2 from 3 in this most recent game that we hadn't seen yet. You can see it now because I'm recording the video, obviously. And also, Embiid was playing, so you can also see Yabusele's games when Embiid is playing. So that would be useful because Embiid is definitely going to impact Yabusele's minutes and shot volume here. And you can see there's an overlap with a lot of these games that Drummond missed and Embiid played in, and Yabusele was still scoring a decent amount of points. You can see that back here earlier in the season, he was only playing 14 minutes, 10 minutes, 19 minutes, so not getting many shots up or scoring many points. But because of injuries to Oubre, KJ Martin, etc., and Drummond being out, I thought that he would play around 30 minutes, which he did. With the last few slides here, I want to highlight some tools that are useful for specific sports. To start, let's talk about the NBA. The NBA can be very tricky at times to bet on for a variety of reasons. It is important for any NBA bettor to have access to all the relevant information that you need to inform your bets. One of the most important things to consider for NBA games is who's playing and who's not, whether it be for injury or for other reasons. A useful tool for this can be NBA.com's hourly injury report, which I'll show you what it looks like right now. Okay, so this is what the NBA.com injury report website will look like. You'll be on a page like this where you'll see there's a PDF released every hour that you can click on, and you click on it, it'll bring you to the injury report. So you can see for January 1st, 2025 at 9:30 p.m., this is what it looks like. The Bulls, Wizards, Magic, Pistons, all of these guys have already either started playing or finished playing. So you'll see the final out or available for all the players. Although if you come down to the last game of the night that we're looking at, 76ers and Kings. Okay, so by now everyone has been listed as out and available as well. So this is all the good information. So you can see Embiid is out, KJ Martin out, Oubre is out, McCain out, but Lowry, Gordon, and Drummond are available. So that could potentially be impacting our Caleb Martin bet here. And for the Kings, Keegan Murray is out, Crowder's available, and all these other guys weren't expected to play anyway. Although looking ahead to tomorrow, you can see that some guys will be listed as questionable, like Porzingis and Brown. Enrique Freeman for the Pacers is doubtful. I guess that's a G League player. That makes sense. AJ Green questionable for the Bucks tomorrow. Draymond probable. So you'll see all the designations looking through this, and it can give you an idea of who's going to be playing and who's not ahead of time. Other than the NBA.com injury report, the Underdog NBA account on X is a great resource for news on injuries and lineup changes. Since the injury report only comes out every hour, I'll look on the Underdog account within those hours to see any news that I missed, especially right before games happen. And also I can see the starting lineups to get a better idea of how the rotations are going to play out. In addition to the injury report, NBA.com also has many advanced stats that can be useful when considering potential bets to make. Some stats I look at frequently are potential assist and shot attempts and percentages from certain locations, such as the corner three. I'll show an example for that right now, too. Okay, so on the NBA.com advanced stats page, I pulled up the shooting data from this season. I chose the distance range by zone, and then I selected past couple weeks because that's going to be the most relevant to recent data. I did it for the Sixers because we're looking at that Caleb Martin bet, and this is what it looks like. You can see restricted area in the paint, mid-range, left corner three, right corner three, and above the break three. So I was interested to see on the Sixers who shot a lot of corner threes because I know P.J. Washington was the last corner three guy who played well against the Kings, got a lot up. Thinking someone on the Sixers can follow suit against the Kings. And looking at the corner threes recently, it's been Martin and Yabusele and Maxey. KJ Martin's out, Kelly Oubre's out, so that's why we think Martin can be that guy in the corner. And also above the break, obviously Maxey and Paul George are going to be there, but Caleb Martin's also getting a decent amount above the break, and he's shooting well from both the corner and above the break. 3 recently, hoping that trend can continue tonight. Obviously, Maxey and George are probably going to get a lot more shots up, but they have a much higher threes line. We're looking for the value on the underrated guy here. Lastly, positional data can be useful for NBA betting to an extent. However, with the NBA becoming more positionless, it's important not to place too much importance on positional data. A good example for this I have is #basketball.com. So this is what #basketball.com looks like. It's going to show you the matchup data by position for all the teams. So you can see here the best defense for point guards, shooting guards, small forwards, etc. And then you can see worst defense for the same thing down here. I like to come down here and then sort it by team. So Caleb Martin and the Sixers are facing Sacramento. We want to take a look at Sacramento. Green means good matchup. Red means bad matchup. We can see for shooting guards and power forwards, it's a good spot for points and also threes. Small forward, not so much. Point guard is not great, but not bad. Although it's hard to say what position exactly Caleb Martin is playing for the Sixers tonight, although I do believe that power forward with him being like a corner 3 spot up type of guy would be the thing to look at, and it's both a good matchup for points, field goal percentage, threes. So that's what I'm looking at. Makes me think it's a good matchup. Plus, we just saw P.J. Washington shoot 4 for 9 from 3 in the last game against the Kings, hoping Caleb Martin can have a similar performance. The other sport I want to talk about specifically is the MLB. Compared to the other sports, the MLB has many advanced stats that are relatively easy to understand and made available to the public. Also, matchup data is very important for player props in the MLB, especially compared to sports like the NBA and NFL, where volume is going to play a key role. In the MLB, pitchers and hitters both, their volume's kind of already predetermined. Hitters are going to get 4 or 5 at-bats usually per game. Starting pitcher is going to throw about 6 innings. So you're not going to get much variation from that, where in the NBA, because of injuries, a role player who only takes 5 shots can get 15 shots, and his points line is going to differ greatly because of that. We don't really see something like that happen in the MLB, so you really just need to rely on the matchup data alone. Some useful tools here are Fangraphs, Baseball Reference, and Baseball Savant. I'll show an example for Baseball Reference. All right, so here I have the Baseball Reference page for Valente Beloso open. He's a pitcher on the Miami Marlins. I made a lot of money betting on this guy's strikeout unders this season, and I'll show you why. You can see just from the front page here that he pitched only 68 innings with only 44 strikeouts, so relatively low strikeout rate there. So one thing I want to look at when looking at pitchers is I want to see their the amount of innings compared to starts. So it looks like for Beloso here, he's only throwing about 5 innings per start here. And also take a look at the walks and strikeouts. So you can see he has a pretty bad rate of 2.1. only 5.8 strikeouts per 9. So yeah, definitely not a guy who's racking up a ton of strikeouts. So that's the kind of first thing I look at, but then I also want to take a look at pitcher game logs. It's weird, it's saying become a member for StatHead. I am a member. All these ads, annoying. Yes, so looking at the game log here, his first start, he only threw 5 innings and had only 2 strikeouts. The second start, he had 5 innings and 8 strikeouts. That was his best performance. But you can see here, he's rarely going past 5. He's rarely making it through 6 innings, I should say. He is going past 5 innings, but not getting through that 6th inning. And you can see his strikeout numbers here. After that 8 and then a 5, it was 4 and below the rest of the way. And the crazy thing was they kept putting up his strikeout line at 4.5. I kept taking the under every single game, and it cashed every game. I took his 4.5 under, like all of these games you can see here, and he never hit the over. So that's, one thing I look at. And you also, for pitchers who face the same team a lot, that's going to be useful too. Because Belozo as a rookie, that wasn't really relevant here for this example, but if you got a guy who's been in the same division for years and faces all his teams in his division a lot, you can look at his previous pitching performances versus those teams if those teams didn't have a lot of roster turnover to see what you can expect from that matchup. I find that really useful when trying to project my own strikeout lines for pitchers to see if I want to bet on anything. That concludes all the topics that I want to discuss and all the tools that I wanted to share for this video today. With that, here's some key takeaways. It's important to understand the implied probability of all the bets that you place so you know you're making plus EV decisions with your bets. I know gambling Twitter defines plus EV as something completely different than what it should be. They make it about like what odds all the sports books have it and finding and devigging the odds and finding the outliers. I disagree with that definition completely. It's really, this is it. This is the real definition here is you want to find bets that have a better chance of winning than the implied probability of the betting odds. That's it. That's very simple to do, and you can do that in many different ways, and not just finding the sharp sports books and betting on outliers and stuff like that. The second key takeaway is you want to utilize tools to find the best odds available to you. So essentially just please line shop. Don't place all your bets at the same sports book. If you have the opportunity to line shop and use multiple sports books, please do that. You're going to save yourself a lot of money in the long run. Even if you're not a winning bettor, even if you're a losing bettor, you'll lose less if you just get the best odds available to you. The last key takeaway here is you want to consider all the variables at play with each bet that you place and utilize the necessary tools to research them. So with the Caleb Martin threes, I showed you a lot of different considerations to make here. You want to consider who's playing for the Sixers. You want to look at the matchup. You want to have an idea of how many minutes he's going to play, how many shots he's going to take. Are they going to be quality shots, etc.? Those are all the different things you want to look at, and then combine that with the line shopping and the Gambly tool to figure out where the best alt lines are. And it's all part of the process, and that'll make you a better sports bettor if you take all those necessary steps. If you're still with me, thank you for following along, and I hope you find this video very informative and helpful. If so, please like the video and leave a comment. I'll continue to make videos like this if there's enough interest and positive feedback. Thank you.